Hey, I'm Chris Perdome, president of Vote America Now, and I am here with Simone Sanders, National Press Secretary for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Simone, thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me today. This is great.
Oh, absolutely. We appreciate it. I've had a chance to get to know you for some time now, and you become a personal friend, and I think what you're doing is phenomenal. And if there's one person who can ignite millennials overall in general, it certainly is you. You have an amazing story. And to be your age and to be so young, to doing what you're doing, I think it's just phenomenal. He could not have picked a better person to engage people and to get them involved. And you're, of course, at the forefront of a major movement right now. Some may say it's something that we've never seen before.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, Senator Sanders makes it easy to help ignite the masses because our campaign has literally transformed the landscape of American politics. And I think it's because Senator Sanders has made key parts of his campaign particularly about the issues that, the life and death issues that Americans all across this country, specifically people in California, are facing and dealing with every day, whether we're talking about climate change, economic inequality, wealth inequality, college debt, making college affordable, criminal justice reform, and the list goes on, healthcare. So it's really been an honor for me and the entire campaign to travel the country to these huge rallies that we're having, but also these really great small group meetings and roundtables, and see people so fired up and ready to join the political revolution.
Simone, tell us about your background a little bit. Obviously, I know a few things, but I mean, what kind of inspired you? Where did you come from, and what kind of inspired you to join the campaign?
Definitely. So I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska, but before I joined the campaign, I was living in D.C., and I worked for a consumer advocacy think tank, and I was the press person for them. And our think tank, my division dealt specifically in trade. So global trade, we worked a lot on the fast track fight in Congress, so the Trans-Pacific Partnership, those are the kind of things that we worked on. We were on the side of the unions in that fight and the side of Senator Sanders. So I got to be very familiar with the senator's platform, as he's one of those trade champions. You know, he stood up for trade agreements from the North American Free Trade Agreement to the Central American Free Trade Agreement, permanent normal trade relations with China. I mean, the list goes on. Currently, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So when the campaign, we just kind of found each other. You know, folks, just how people do in politics. People's resumes are out there, and I jumped at the chance to join this campaign. I chatted with a couple folks. I got the opportunity to sit down with Senator Sanders, and he asked me, "Do I want to join the political revolution?" And it was a no-brainer for me because I really believe in the things that he's talking about.
Sounds good. How do you think it resonates with millennials now, what he's doing versus, because obviously normally they're not engaged in the process as they normally should be. Do you think his campaign has caused them to really kind of, whether it's supported or not, whether to kind of be more aware of the election process now?
I mean, I think so. One, millennials are fueling the political revolution. So not just folks like myself and other talented young people that we have working for our campaign, but volunteers across the country, young people on college campuses, young professionals in businesses, young entrepreneurs who are hosting phone banks at their houses and canvases. And they're having, I went to a farm to table event most recently here in California where all these young millennial folk got together and they raised money for the campaign, but also brought awareness on what's going on. And I think that young people, particularly millennials, hadn't been engaged because, they didn't think this was a system that worked for them. And we know that we do live in a rigged economy that's kept in place by a system of corrupt campaign finance. And Senator Sanders set out initially to, one, we want to capture the Democratic nomination, but we want to shine light on this corrupt system. And we're telling you, you don't have to participate in the corruptness. You can change it, and you can create change. And I think that's the message that so many young people have latched on to. Folks like to say that young people like myself are the popcorn generation. We want everything right now, really quick, microwave. And I don't think that's true. I think we believe in movements. We believe in change. We believe in longevity. We saw that in 2008 with then Senator Barack Obama, now President Obama. And I think we're seeing that again in this election. And not that, Bernie Sanders is Barack Obama by any means, but just that young people they want change. They want something that they can believe in. They want a movement. And especially when you're speaking directly to issues that everybody is dealing with. I went to school and got a good education. I've got debt. You know, I had to work 2-3 jobs
right,
when I graduated from a real good degree because I had bills.
Right.
You know, these are things that people are dealing with. And so to have a candidate that is authentically and unabashedly speaking out about issues that are affecting young people, women, men, minorities all across this country, and just telling it like it is up there and making these staples of his campaign. You know, Senator Sanders spoke about Sandra Bland before it was cool to do so. You know, we were talking about being progressive before progressivism was popular. You know, this isn't, these aren't campaign stunts for him. This is just really who he is and who our campaign is. And I think that's why we've seen so many millennials get engaged and involved in the process.
Let me ask you, you mentioned it being a rigged process, and of course a couple other candidates have talked about that as well. I certainly have my own thoughts about that. I get it. So do you think that has been an issue in previous elections why young people are not involved, and also in particular this election? Because obviously I don't think people really understand the entire delegate process. And for example, as you know, we've both traveled the country in different parts together, and I talk to young people just like you do, and it's kind of frustrating because they ask me, well, Chris, I don't understand. How could Senator Sanders win, but then not, how does she get more delegates? And I think that's the part that makes young people apprehensive to get involved in the process, because they say it's unfair. How do you win a state, but then someone gets more delegates than you?
So one, we live in a rigged economy. I do think there are issues with the process, but our economy is rigged, and rigged in the sense that we are the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And over the last 30 years, the wealth has been concentrated at the top. So the top 0.1% of people in this country are getting richer and richer, when the middle class, a lot of those people are young people, haven't seen that translate to them. So that's what this rigged economy is. And then when we talk about campaign finance, well, that's a whole another issue. We know folks are pouring billions and billions of dollars into elections. Corporate interests literally have the opportunity and the ability to buy elections since, you know, that disastrous Citizens United case. So those are some of the things that we've set out to change, which is why our campaign doesn't have a super PAC, so on and so forth. On the Democratic side, with the rules, I do think that there is, and I think lots of Democrats all across the country would agree with me and with our campaign, is that there is room for improvement. The Democratic Party is a big tent party. We should be opening up the party. We should be making it easier for people to vote, easy for people to get involved in the political process, easy for people to sit on Democratic committees and, you know, liaison with their Democratic members in their states, you know, be a part of the DNC. And right now that's not necessarily the case. So when we do travel across the country, we do hear, you know, folks that are kind of disgruntled, you know, with the way that the current system is set up, but we can change that. And I think that's what's important about getting people engaged and involved, particularly here in California. There have been 1.5 million new voter registrations.
That's amazing.
1.5 million, and that's just what we know right now, according to PDI. There could be some more coming up, all the way up until the voter registration deadline on May 23rd. And so those people are folks that have not traditionally maybe been involved in the process. Those are people that, you know, never thought that they'd get involved in Democratic politics, but they're coming because they feel connected with the message and the movement. And so we think that it's really important for those people to get in, and that is how we change the party. That is how you get in there and you help make a difference. And so Senator Sanders has, you know, we've literally helped open up the door, and our campaign has helped register thousands and thousands of folks all across the country, a lot of them young people, a lot of them formerly disengaged voters, into the Democratic Party. And so now that we've got these people here, we got to keep them. And we have to make our processes easier. We have to be more transparent. So I'm so glad that during this election season, you know, people are taking a hard look at the rules. They're like, well, what is this? I don't understand what this is. So that is literally what our campaign is about. So in transforming the landscape of American politics, we've been able to open up the party, bring new voices into the party, new bodies, new people. We want to keep them there. We want to keep them engaged and involved, and that's what the political revolution is. It's not about Senator Sanders. It's not just about, you know, we want him to be president. We want him to get elected. But we need people to stay engaged and involved. And so well after, you know, November 8th, 2016, you know, January 2017, you know, well after that, we want people to be holding their elected officials accountable up and down the ballot, from the president all the way down to your county comptroller. So, you know, that's, I think, what's key here.
And to your point, I think a lot of people don't understand, especially millennials, the importance of continuous engagement in the process. You can elect the president, great. Every 2 years, of course, you have the House, and in 6 years, the Senate. A president is one thing, but if you don't have Congress to help you push things through, It
If
makes
you don't have local county officials, I believe, all politics literally is local. So you could have a really great congressman, a really great senator, but what about your state senate? There are things happening in California right now. There's ballot initiatives on the table. There's a current ballot initiative to keep pharmaceutical companies from ripping off the people of California by making these life-saving drugs that people need too expensive. And Senator Sanders has been speaking about that for such a long time. And California's leading on that. A $15 minimum wage. We have not been able to achieve that at the federal level, but California's done it. They're implementing that. And over the next couple years, folks will see a $15 minimum wage. When we talk about decriminalizing marijuana at the federal level, again, things that the feds have not been able to lead on, but another ballot initiative right here in California where there's a ballot initiative to make marijuana legal, to legalize marijuana. So I think that, I think millennials, we're looking for a way we can really be engaged and involved and effective. We don't want the fluff. Millennials can see through the fluff really quick.
Right.
See through the fluff very quickly. And then when they see that it's fluff and it's not concrete and there's nothing that can really happen, that's when we tend to be like, okay, well, I'm going to go over here where I can really make change. But I think what our campaign has been able to do is let folks know, not just young people, but old people, men, women, black, white, Latino, Asian American, Native American, and otherwise, gay, straight, all religious backgrounds, that you can create change. Your voice matters, your vote matters, and the way you do that is you get involved, you get engaged, you stay involved, stay engaged, and keep the pressure on.
That's right. Well, they're selling me to let's go to a commercial break, so we'll be right back. And we are back here with Simone Sanders, National Press Secretary with the Bernie Sanders campaign. Simone, so a lot of people have noticed, of course, really before the campaign, no one was talking about inequality issues.
No, they weren't. I think Senator Sanders has done a lot in this election. Not only have we garnered over 45% of the pledged delegates, but we have literally, moved the needle on a number of issues. And I think the issue of economic inequality is one of those. Poor people are not sexy. Okay, people don't want to report on poor people in America. They don't, because that's not a flashy, sexy topic for the news. But Senator Sanders is committed to the issues, and so now we have literally had national conversations about the wealth gap and addressing economic inequality in this country. We have held forums all over this country about the need to build up the middle class, and the fact that, again, the top 0.1% of people in this country are getting all the wealth, and that the middle class has not seen that trickle down to them. And so we need a groundswell, we need programs, we need policies that work for the American people. We need trade policies that work for the American people. So we have literally been able to have just a real frank discussion. Senator Sanders has raised the level of discussion in this election. A lot of times people try to dumb it down for the voters. And, we think no. We think the American people deserve an intelligent conversation about the issues. And that's what we have gotten, at least on the Democratic side, in this election.
Well, of course, everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to grow their personal life and their own income. I think it is an important issue. We all have come from humble beginnings. And at the same instance, I think it also is about persevering. I think we need to start teaching more in America. I think, especially our generation, we're so into superficiality things and social media and reality TV. I think that there should be more of an emphasis on entrepreneurship and on doing more for our country, benefiting ourselves in America more.
Yeah, building up our businesses. Those are things we love to talk about when we're out there on the campaign trail. But also, how can we really make these policies work for the people? Because right now, a lot of people would argue that a lot of things, we'll take our trade policies, for example. We have America, the way we do trade policy is just wrong. And that's what we like to say. Trade is great, we love trade, but we need to re-examine the way we engage in trade policies. You take things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, for example. Out of the 29 chapters of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, only 3 actually have to do with actual trade and commerce. Other things have to do with where you get your food, your food labeling, the prices of your life-saving medicines that you need, intellectual property. There have been, thanks to NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, Central American Free Trade Agreement, jobs have literally been snatched out of communities all over this country, from Baltimore to Cleveland to Los Angeles and everywhere in between.
Right.
And there's been nothing there to replace those things.
Right.
So we have to not only have a conversation, but put some real policies in place, that work for these hardworking American people, people that used to have really good union jobs, that they could live really great middle class lives, and now they can't because, the opportunities just aren't there, because we've shipped jobs over to Mexico and China and everywhere else in between. So we have to have a really great trade policy, but we also have to make sure we're taking care of our American worker.
Well, what can young people do? Of course, they don't know about these numerous things, NAFTA and so forth. What can they do to get engaged or to bring awareness? Those are more obviously elected official roles, but what can young people, these thousands, hundreds of thousands, I should say, or millions rather, of millennials that you guys are engaging, and just overall that want to be involved, what can they do to bring awareness to that and say, hey, we want to change it, this should be changed?
Well, you know what? I think it's about getting your piece of the pie. So trade agreements seem really large and big, but there's various different pieces. So there's a labor aspect, so actual jobs. And so if jobs is your thing, jobs is what makes you want to get up out of the bed every day and go and work to advocate for better jobs in communities all across this country. We need young people at the forefront of those initiatives. Climate change is huge. There are huge environmental implications for these trade agreements, particularly with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And so, and not even, we don't have to look at trade agreements. There's things happening in America right now. There's fracking going on all up and down the coast in California. That is an issue. Someone was telling me the other day that in particular areas in California, there has been spike in asthma attacks and asthma cases of young children, and you go to various school districts, and a disproportionate number of young children are suffering from asthma, and that is a direct result of these environmental issues of fracking and other things going on in their communities. That's something important that touches all of us. And so I really think it's about millennials, finding their piece and getting engaged and involved. And I think that's, what's helped make our campaign so successful is that, we touch on a myriad of different issues. If you go to a Bernie Sanders rally, you can hear him hit on 20 to 25 different things that we're always talking about. And those are 20 to 25 different things that young people can get engaged and get involved in. They can get engaged with our campaign. There's tons of other great organizations out there doing really good work.
Can you, for all the young people out there who, unlike you and I, who don't know what fracking is, can you explain that to the millennials?
Well, I think fracking is, so let's go here.
So they can understand what it is.
So let's go here with our overall environmental implications. And so we have, I don't know if folks know, but we have a very comprehensive racial justice platform that target the 5 different types of violence that people of color in America experience every day. And one of those types of violence is environmental violence. And so when people are walking around talking about environmental justice, environmental justice is a real thing. And so we believe that climate change is one of the greatest global threats to our society. And climate change isn't something that just happened. We did it. We did it.
Over time.
So over time. And so whether that's, with all the developments in technology, putting more cars on the road, whether that's with pipelines, all different kind of things, we have contributed to climate change. And so there are things that are disproportionately affecting communities of color, for example. And so truck depots, plants, when you put these manufacturing plants into communities, the smog that gives off of those, when you are burning, when you are flaring out, gas that comes from these pipelines, or sometimes with railroad companies. So there's all these different issues that contribute to environmental violence. When you talk about Flint, that is environmental violence in Flint, Michigan. What happened, what is currently happening to those people in Flint, Michigan is environmental violence. And it's not just Flint, it's all over this country. And so I really think that the realm of environmental justice and climate change work is a place where there's tons of opportunities for young people to get engaged and get involved in, particularly right here in California. I know there's wildfires that are an issue that are happening. I mean, wildfires don't just happen. There are reasons why these things are happening to our global community. And if we want the world to be here, we want to leave the world for our grandchildren and our children's children's children to be a better place, to be a place that's inhabitable, we have to do our part. And we have to take a hard look at the way we take care of our planet. And so what Senator Sanders is saying is we need a climate plan that puts people before polluters. And that's what we're calling for. So I just encourage folks to visit our website, to check out our People Before Polluters plan at www.berniesanders.com, and to learn more about all the different ways you can get engaged in the environmental justice fight.
And see, and I think that's an important issue. I think we try to streamline things so much. Young people they're turned off. Sometimes they don't want to hear about taxes or healthcare, but we as an organization always believe that is so important for you to pick an issue, whether it be agricultural or healthcare or environmental, criminal justice. And like you said, pick an issue that's important to you, that's exciting jobs, whatever the case may be, the economy. And together we can all really make an entire movement, an entire change, versus no one doing anything at all and leaving it up to DC and just saying, oh, well, you guys figured it out. And now we're 56 years old complaining, so what the heck happened? Well,
exactly.
So hopefully our generation can actually do something and make a change and actually make that happen.
Oh, I think so, definitely. Yeah. And again, that's what we're calling for, the political revolution. It's about everybody standing up, coming together under this umbrella, under the issues, and getting to work on the issues. So whether it's climate change, whether it's criminal justice reform, whether it's addressing the wealth gap, whether it's jobs, education, that's what we're calling for. Well, good deal.
When we come back, we're going to be talking about the soul of the Democratic Party, and we'll talk about Senator Sanders' path forward. Someone will break down how this whole thing can potentially turn around.
Definitely.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Simone. Don't go away. There's more to come. And we are back here with Simone Sanders, National Press Secretary for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Simone, thank you again.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, Simone, you guys have done a lot. You've changed a lot. And I think a real conversation has to be had in the Democratic Party, deep down the soul of Democrats, and as to where they're going and what can be expected. These are millions of followers that you guys have created who normally would not be involved in the process, but you guys have engaged and ignited them and asked them to be involved. What do you think that conversation is like?
I think this election is really about the fight for the soul of the Democratic Party. And so it's about, who are we for? Are we for the hardworking American people in this country? Are we standing up, for those 29 million Americans in America that are still uninsured and millions more still underinsured? Are we fighting for, that mother that is struggling to put food on the table for her family when she works 40, 50, 60 hours a week, but still can't earn enough money to buy food, buy clothes, live just off one job. So who are we really fighting for? Or are we on the side of the corporate interests? Are we on the side of, our corporate-backed media establishments? Are we on the side of Wall Street? Who are we really fighting for? And so that's what I think this Democratic election has really been about. Those are the issues that we have brought to the forefront. I don't think anybody wonders if Senator Sanders is going to stand up to Wall Street when he gets into the White House. I don't think Wall Street is thinking Bernie Sanders is going to be their friend. Senator Sanders has consistently stood up to Wall Street, stood up to big money interests, whether we're talking about the pharmaceutical company, the tobacco company. He stood on the side of the American people. And that is what this election for us has been about. And so we have had the opportunity to have a very spirited discussion about the issues. And going forward, I think that discussion is definitely going to continue, because it is, who do you want to put in that White House in 2017 that will best represent the interests of the people? Who is going to help address economic inequality? Who is going to work across the aisle with Congress to help get a lot of these things that we need, that the hardworking American people need, enacted? And we think that's Bernie Sanders. So I think that conversation is an ongoing conversation. It's an ongoing fight. We've still got California and a bunch of other states that vote on June 7th. We've got DC on June 14th. So we're in this fight to win it, and we're going to continue to raise the issues and talk about the issues in this election.
Right. Simone, of course, the state of the campaign is uniquely different now. I want to talk about, where do you think things can go? His path forward.
Well, I want to note that we do have a path forward, so thank you for saying that. Because some people are like, is there a path? There's definitely a path. Senator Sanders got into this race a little over a year ago, April 30th. I think it was 2015, April 30th, he got into this race. And when he first got into this race, he was polling at 3%. The media called him a fringe candidate. No one thought he would be in here for the long haul. They thought he was just in the race to kind of raise a couple issues and ideas, but not seriously in here. And look where we are today. We have garnered over 7 million individual contributions to our campaign. We have raised well over $200 million in this campaign. We have brought new people into the party. We've raised the issues. We've taken on the establishment. They said we couldn't do it without a super PAC, and we've done it without a super PAC. We have a people-powered campaign. We've won.
$27 an average.
Yeah, $27 is our average contribution. You know, we have won about 20 nominating contests. We're looking to add to that come in these upcoming nominating contests. So we have not only have we transformed the landscape of American politics, we have really competed in this campaign season, in this nominating contest. And so going forward, I think there is a path. Look, we think we can do really well in a number of states coming up. We think we can do well in Oregon. We think we can do well and win in Kentucky as well. We think we can win California. The Dakotas are ripe territory. Senator Sanders is in and has been in Puerto Rico. We think we can do well in Puerto Rico and garner some delegates from there. New Mexico, so there, and D.C. is the last nominating contest in this election. So we think there's a path forward. We have garnered over 45% of the pledged delegates. And come June 14th, neither Senator Sanders or Secretary Clinton will have clinched the magic number of delegates, 2383. And so that means that superdelegates are going into the convention are going to be key into who comes out with that Democratic nomination. And so we have a good number of superdelegates. I know it's reported that Secretary Clinton has a whole lot more, but I like to think superdelegates are like football recruits. You know, not the NFL draft where, you know, where they pick you, but superdelegates are football recruits, you know, college football recruits. And so it's not until they come to you, they sign on the dotted line and they're in practice, do you know that they're really with you? And so that dotted line, that practice where we're asking folks to sign, that is the convention. And so super delegates have right up until they're on that convention floor to who they're casting their vote for. And we think that we can make a case to these superdelegates, and we've already started to do that, about who is the strongest candidate to take on, you know, the Republican nominee Donald Trump in November and throughout the rest of this nominating contest and win in November. And if we're looking at who is the strongest nominee, who is the person that we know can walk away with that Democratic nomination come November 8th, that's Senator Sanders. He polls better than Secretary Clinton in general election matchups, well better than Secretary Clinton against Donald Trump. And so that is the message that we're taking to folks, and we think we can win.
Well, for millennials out there, Simone was talking about needing 2,383 delegates. Now, there's a difference between pledged delegates and
super delegates, yes. So pledged delegates are delegates that you win in the state nominating contest. So, for example, in California, there are well over 400 pledged delegates at stake in California. So come June 7th, Senator Sanders is going to win. Hopefully we win by a very large margin where we garner the most delegates. But I want to note for folks that the Democrats, we go off of proportional allocation for delegates. So what that means is it's not winner take all. So whoever wins, they don't win all the delegates. We have to proportionally allocate these delegates based on the margin by which, you know, folks won, which precincts people won. It's very, very, very nuanced.
Breakdown by counties. And
by counties and whatnot. Very nuanced. But regardless, we're going to walk away with a substantial number of delegates from pledged delegates from California and other nominating contests on June 7th for our campaign. Now, super delegates are listed a little bit different. So super delegates are DNC committee members. Sometimes they could be a county commissioner. They're senators and they're, you know, United States representatives, but they're also state reps. So it just really depends. Your county comptroller could be a super delegate for all you know. And those folks, they're different. And so superdelegates account for 15% of the delegate count. So the majority is pledged, and the little 15% are these superdelegates. And in an instance where, you know, pledged delegates have all been allocated and there's still no clear winner, that's when superdelegates come into play. So superdelegates can actually, currently as the rules are written, cast their ballot and their vote for whoever they want. And for instance, you know, Senator Sanders, he won by a large margin. He had a very decisive win in New Hampshire. But all of the superdelegates are saying that they're going with Secretary Clinton. And so what we're calling for is, you know, super delegates to take a really hard look at the platform, who can win in November, but also what your constituents said. And we hope that some of these super delegates will after they've taken that hard look, say, I want to support Senator Sanders.
And Senator Sanders wins by a much larger margin than
Oh yeah, by election, by a much against Donald Trump.
Yes.
Senator Sanders beats Donald Trump by sometimes upwards to 10 points, as opposed to Secretary Clinton. The nominating contest is a lot closer. Sometimes it's 2 points where she wins, and a lot of instances she loses. There was just a poll that came out and that polled 3 battleground states. It was Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida, and it showed Secretary Clinton losing to Donald Trump. If the election were held today, Secretary Clinton would lose to Donald Trump, and we think that's important for folks to know, because we can't afford for a Democrat not to take the White House, not to keep the White House in 2017, and Democratic nominee, and Bernie Sanders is the next president of the United States.
Well, Democrats certainly have to take a hard look and identify and say who is going to be our best viable chance. Not a close chance, not barely making it, but who's going to be our best viable sole chance to make this happen.
Yes, and we think that's Bernie Sanders. And look, we know that, I'm not going to mince words here, we know that the path to the nomination for us is narrow right now. It's narrow, but we think that we can wrap it up and we can win.
Well, it's terrific. Well, thank you so much, Simone, for taking your time to be here. And we're excited to continue to engage and do what we can on all levels to get youth involved in the voting process. And there's some great things with the campaign that we'll be doing here in California as well.
Well, we're excited, and thank you so much for having me today. And we just want to encourage folks to get out there and vote.
Thank you. Absolutely. Then go to BernieSanders.com for more information.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you guys for having us. Appreciate it.